the shows. See a team tossing the corporal around. The chaser lines up the corporal and sends it safe.
Are you tired of getting punched, smacked, kicked, bludgeoned, and bewitched in Harry Potter Quidditch Champions? Well, this is the video for you, Seekers. I'm Tama, and I'm going to show you guys how to survive and catch more snitches. Alright, let's get started. So first things first, we need to talk about flight. Now, one thing I want to point out is that the tutorial doesn't show you is the boost meter on the bottom right. So you're going to want to watch your boost meter, especially as a seeker. As you can see, my boost meter is draining. The particular broom I'm using right now is the Nimbus, and it lets you actually boost for about the whole length of the field. This is going to differ with different brooms, and we're going to get into that later. But for now, I want you guys to focus on, paying attention to where your boost meter is at. This is going to be crucial as a seeker, because if you run out of boost, you are at risk of being hit by everything and everyone. So you're going to want to pay attention to your boost meter. You're going to want to get rings if you need them, and you're going to want to avoid enemies if your boost meter is low. The next thing we're going to be talking about is drifting. Now, drifting is done by pressing the drift button and a direction. If you watch when I drift here, my boost meter actually fills up pretty fast. And that's one of the benefits of drifting. It'll give you more boost, especially if you're in a pinch and you're out of boost. I find that drifting is not really super effective on Seeker just because of the nature of the role. We're always chasing the snitch at all times. So there's not really much time for us to be drifting around. However, if you are out of boost and you are in a safe area, I generally will drift to try to get some boost back in a pinch. So you can use it that way. Another way I use drift is when I'm going around corners. So sometimes the snitch will want to fly around the goals here, or it'll fly around like the middle circle, as you'll see. And I'm going to demonstrate how flying around here without drift, how long it takes. And then I'm going to do a quick drift when I get to the circle. And you're going to see that you can make a much sharper turn by doing a quick drift. It can get you around the corner faster. And it's especially useful if the snitch is making really, really quick, tight 90-degree turns. Next up, we have dodging. Dodging can be done in any direction, and dodging is going to be your main survivability tool. So every character in the game can attack the Seeker, which means you're going to be wanting to be very evasive. So dodging is going to be your main tool to do that. However, you're going to want to be aware of your cooldown, and generally I save my dodges for bludgers in certain situations, because if they hit you, they're devastating. Next up is field of view and zoom. So you're going to want to go in your settings and put your field of view to max, and then you're going to want to bind your zoom toggle button. What this is going to do is going to allow you to zoom out while you're flying, and it's going to allow you to see more of the pitch around you. This is going to be helpful when you have enemies coming from all different directions trying to punch you. This will allow you to dodge much easier. This is somewhat of personal preference, but since I've been using it, this has helped my game improve a lot. So give it a try. Tracking. The bread and butter of seeking. It's what everybody wants to do. Chase the snitch down. So if you're a new player or new to seeking, you're going to want to go into open practice and set the snitch to champion. You're going to want to just practice following around the snitch, because People who are playing the game in multiplayer right now have been playing for quite some time, and they're going to be really good at tracking a snitch. And this is basically how you catch snitches. You're going to be tracking, and you're going to be avoiding enemy players who are trying to stop you from tracking. So go in, get comfortable with knowing where the snitch is going to go. Even though it might seem completely erratic, the more you play, the more you get to predict the movements of the snitch. It's hard to describe, but you can tell kind of which direction the snitch is going to head in sometimes. But sometimes even experienced players like myself get confused by which way the snitch is going to go. So it's good to go into practice to warm up or to get comfortable and get used to where the snitch is going. So practice this, and then we're going to move on to the next. The next skill we have is bumping. Now, bumping can be done in any direction, much like dodging. And you just point where you want to bump, and then you hit the bump button. So bumping in itself will slow the enemy seeker down if it connects. And if you are behind in snitch meter, it will steal a certain percentage of snitch meter from whoever you bumped. The one downside to this is if you are ahead in meter and you bump someone, you will not gain any meter. However, the enemy seeker will be slowed and will leave you open for a catch or to gain a little more meter than them. So, bumping in itself is pretty difficult. I'm going to demonstrate here. You have to be shoulder to shoulder, basically, with the enemy seeker in order to bump them. Now, there is a skill called homing bump, which will actually allow you to bump from anywhere within a 10-meter radius. So you will not have to be this close, as I was there, to bump someone. I'll insert a clip of homing bump here in a second, but I think you'll see me miss an up bump here. This bumping is very difficult without the homing bump skill. So in this clip, I have the homing bump equipped now, and you'll notice when you go to bump, it will automatically magnet onto the enemy seeker. Now they have to be within a 10-meter radius. So imagine there's a 10-meter bubble around you, and you have to be in that range for the magnet to work. But this makes bumping extremely easy, and you'll find that many seekers are using this simply because it's very easy. And if you get behind, you can bump and steal meter. So it allows you to catch up if you're behind, or to stay in the lead and knock a seeker back when you're about to go for a catch. So that's bumping. You're going to want to get used to the range if you are using the homing bump, because it can be pretty particular how far away you are from the enemy seeker or how far away they are from you. You can bump them from off their screen, and they can bump you from off their screen. So you want to get used to the indicator and where they are. Next up, we got focus cam. So focus cam basically allows you to have your camera focus on wherever the snitch is once you find it. And it makes you have to track your seeker to the snitch now, instead of you having to track the snitch as it's moving around. This can be useful in various situations, such as if you lose a snitch somewhere, if it's going around the keeper, or anything like that. There are multiple really good seekers who use this camera. I personally don't, but like I said, with a lot of things in this game, it's personal preference. So I would encourage you to try it out, give it a shot, and see if it works for you. Next up, we got bludgers. So I'm going to be showing how to dodge bludgers here. You're going to notice the meter that fills up that says dodge. You're going to want to wait until it fills almost all the way, until it gets towards the triangle. And once it enters that inner zone there, you're going to want to wait until that's about 1/4 of the way full. And theoretically, you should be able to dodge every time when that happens. There are a few things that come into play, such as the direction of the bludger, and if the game wants to let you dodge it or not, because they're pretty bugged right now. But if you follow these tips, it should work every time. Next up, we got brooms and skills. So this is your build. So the seeking category makes your snitch meter fill up faster. So the small portions here, the 1, 3, and the 5, increase your snitch meter fill rate by 2% each. So you get a total of 6% more. Now the big ones, the last one is 5% faster. The first one is snitch ring buff. So when you go through a ring, you get 3 seconds of full ring before it starts draining. Second is snitch ring energy. So every time you go through a ring, it boosts your energy by 100%. So this is pretty good for being on top of the snitch, giving you more meter fill. Now defense has snitch meter distance, which lets you be further away from the snitch and still get full meter. It also allows you to dodge bludgers and gain a speed boost. It allows you to bump bludgers and parry them back at the beater. And then it also, the final level, makes you take 1 less damage from all stuns. Last category, disruption, is your bump damage. So the 3 small skill points here, the 1, 3, and the 5, give you 1 more bump damage each. The big ones here are the homing bump, which I talked about previously. The meter thief, which helps you steal more meter from the enemy seeker if you're behind. And the snitch ring blocking, which actually removes the ring after you fly through it. So there are multiple different builds, and they correspond with brooms. So the brooms, there are 2 brooms I would recommend for seekers, especially if you're a beginner. That broom is the Firebolt. The Firebolt has the fastest max speed in the game, and also has great acceleration. The boost efficiency is not the best, but it's not bad. So this broom is very fast, and you're going to reach your max speed very quickly. So if you want to be on top of the snitch, this is going to be great for that. It also has an almost perfect maximum health stat, which means you're going to survive a lot more of a beating than you would with another broom. It also has a decent stun resistance rate, which means when you get stunned, you're not going to be stunned forever. You're going to have a shorter time after you get stunned. The health regeneration rate is not the best, but because the maximum health and the stun resistance are so good, the regeneration rate doesn't matter too much. Now, where this room does lack is the maneuver speed. Now, I want to talk about maneuver speed because it's a little bit confusing. And what maneuver speed means is how far you go when you dodge. So it's the distance you travel when you dodge. So the Firebolt has a very low maneuver speed, meaning when you dodge, you don't travel very far. And also the dodge cooldown is very low. So once you dodge, you're done for at least 5 seconds before you can dodge again. Meaning you have to pick your dodges very carefully when using the Firebolt. Because once you dodge, the enemies are going to be on top of you. They know you dodge. You're going to have a bludger coming at you. So this broom is, I think, is very good for beginners because of its speed. Now the other broom I would recommend is the Cavalier. The Cavalier is a little bit different than the Firebolt in that its max speed is not 100 and its acceleration is not 100. They're pretty high, but the boost efficiency is the highest in the game, meaning you can hold your boost for a very long time without going anywhere near the rings, without going anywhere near danger of the other seeker, and you can fly around with focus camera, which is what a lot of people do. They fly around with focus camera. They're nowhere near the rings. They have 5 points in their second skill point tree, meaning they can be 25 meters away from the snitch and still gain full meter. So this is a very good broom for that. The maximum health is high as well, not as high as the Firebolt, but it's up there. The health regeneration rate is also just like the Firebolt. The stun resistance is a little lower than the Firebolt, but using this broom, you're going to be generally flying very far away from the snitch. You're going to be using focus cam usually, and you're not going to be getting in the mix. You're going to be wanting to dodge everything, avoid keepers, avoid the beater. So this is a good broom for that. So if you're interested in trying focus camera, I would definitely recommend using the Cavalier. And if you don't use focus camera, don't be deterred. You can still use the Cavalier. It's still a great broom. So the Cavalier and the Firebolt are the two brooms that I would recommend. Now, I like to tinker around and mess with off-meta things. So just for, out of curiosity, I'm going to talk about two other brooms that I use. I like to use a shooting star. It has very high acceleration and a very high max speed. The boost efficiency is pretty bad, but I like to stay directly on top of the snitch, so it's not that big of a deal to me. The maximum health is high, the regeneration rate is high, and the stun resistance is really high. So once you get stunned, you're right back in, and your health is coming back like that. The maneuver speed is very low, so you're not going to be dodging very far, and the cooldown is decent. But I like to use a shooting star. Mainly, I like to use a shooting star because it has very nice skins. If you look at the skins of the shooting star, you'll see, especially the Gryffindor one. I think the Gryffindor one looks amazing. But the shooting star is one of the brooms, and the other broom that I like to use is the Nimbus. So I use the Nimbus mainly because I like to torture myself, and the Nimbus has a very low durability, so you die very easily on the Nimbus, but it has very high agility, and also the agility stat allows me to dodge things and move very far away while also having a decent dodge cooldown, meaning I have my dodge a lot. So I generally use the Nimbus when I play to avoid a lot of different things that Seekers will be doing. So for example, if Seekers bumping, I'll use the Nimbus because I can actually roll out of the way, and if they try to homing bump me, they can't reach me because my dodge goes too far. It'll roll too far and they won't reach me. In a perfect world, they won't reach me. But if I were to do that with, say, the Firebolt, and I rolled away from a homing bumping Seeker, they would reach me every time. So I've been experimenting with the Nimbus, trying this out. But anyway, those are my thoughts on brooms. Now I'm gonna give you guys a build that you can use if you're a beginner, and it requires the Firebolt. So you're gonna use the Firebolt, and you're gonna want to make sure your broom is actually maxed out. I didn't add this previously, but you're gonna want to max out your brooms before you enter multiplayer, because people in multiplayer are gonna be playing with max brooms and they're gonna be flying really well. So here's the build. You're gonna use 5 points in seeking. Okay, this is gonna give you extra 6% in snitch meter fill. It's also gonna help your boost. So when you fly through rings, you're gonna have that buff from flying through the rings for 3 seconds, and you're gonna get a full boost meter every time you fly through the rings. Okay, so 5 points in seeking. And then in defense, you're gonna want 3 points. So what the 3 points in defense is gonna do for you is it's gonna give you an extra 10 meters in snitch meter distance. So from an extra 10 meters away, which the maximum range of the snitch is 10 meters. So add 10 to that, 20 meters of snitch meter fill range. You can be 20 meters away and still gain full meter. And also you're gonna have a dodge speed boost by 15% from dodging bludgers, which is amazing. So this is what I would recommend for defense, 3 points in defense. And then of course, disruption. So like I said previously, for beginners, you're gonna want to use the homing bump. Why? Because it gives you a lot of value for a very low cost. 2 points is not that big, and it gives you a lot of value. You're gonna have spawns at 10 meters where you can bump the enemy seeker, and you're going to do an extra point of damage to them at that first point in disruption. So give this build a try, and you guys should be doing a lot better than previously. If you use any other broom, you're not going to have good results. Other builds in terms of skill points might work, but the brooms are really, pretty important. So stick with those 2 brooms that I had pointed out. All right, so here I jump into a game, and of course I join in progress with my team losing with less than 3 minutes left. Now, I could just quit this game and not play, or just give up, but I don't have that mindset, and I think that you can learn from every game you play. There's always an opportunity for you to learn something or even win. So all of the fundamentals that I showed are used in this gameplay here, this short little clip. So I'm dodging bludgers, I'm tracking the snitch, okay? I'm avoiding the enemy. You're gonna see the enemy is using homing bump. I am not using homing bump, so I need to be very careful. I dodged the enemy a few times by paying close attention when he's close, like right there. And so for me, unfortunately, the keeper was not trying to kick me, so I don't have an example of the keeper kicking. But what you're gonna wanna do when you're going towards a keeper who is kicking you is you're gonna wanna fly at them, and when they come out to kick you, you're gonna dodge. And hopefully you're using a broom that has a quick dodge cooldown. And when you come out of the other side, you're gonna wanna avoid the kick again from the keeper, because they can kick you on the way in and on the way out. Also, you're gonna wanna be very wary of the beater. They're gonna throw bludgers at you before you go into the keeper, and they're gonna try to punch you on your way out. So you need to keep those things in mind to keep yourself safe. Now, as you can see, I made up for a lot of the deficit here. It is almost a minute left. So I'm doing pretty well at getting rings. I'm doing pretty well at dodging the secret bumps. I've been dodging every bludger here. There I reflect one with my 4 points in defense. You can bump bludgers back at the beater. So I'm very close, but here I make a mistake. Coming up. Oh, nope, not here, but I do make a mistake coming up, and it ultimately costs me this snitch. I could have caught this snitch and, almost tied this game up, but I get hit by the bludger there, and then they get a clean catch. But I wanted to show this clip to show that you shouldn't give up, even if you know you're going to lose, because you can learn something from every game. There's a reason why I didn't show a clip of me absolutely destroying a team or catching 2 snitches very easily. I wanted to show kind of what you have to do and what adversity you have to go through when you're playing this game. So this video went on a little longer than I thought. Well, hopefully these tips give you a good head start to getting better at this game and catching more snitches. Stay vigilant. Don't worry about losses. Every game you can learn something from. So good luck out there, Seekers.